I'm not sure that we truly understand the power of pain. We've all experienced pain. We all know what pain looks like, tastes like, and we can see it coming. But I'm not so sure we completely appreciate the power of pain to move us, to distract us, to blind us. I'm not so sure that we understand and appreciate the power of pain and what it can do to alter not just our perspective, but even the actions that we know are necessary, true, and good. The text for today is Mark chapter 14, verses 32 through around verse 39. It's the Garden of Gethsemane. And I think the Garden of Gethsemane, it is chock full with all kinds of fascinating theological insights. But for me, the Garden of Gethsemane also represents this unique moment where we are able to stare into the humanity of Jesus starkly, clearly, almost with such a clarity that it's disturbing. So verse 32, they went to the place called Gethsemane, and Jesus says to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He's asking for his community to support him, to be with him, to be present with him. Even though they can't solve his problem, their presence is valuable to him. He took, verse 33, Mark chapter 14, he took Peter, James, and John along with him, the inner three, and then listen to this line. And he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. The Garden of Gethsemane really challenges me to remember that Jesus is human, 100% God, but also 100% human. As a matter of fact, the next verse, verse 34, is raw human emotion that we need to not just become more comfortable with, but we need to explore with a deeper depth in our own lives. Jesus says, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." He said to them. That's interesting. We have all of these, leadership books that are coming out in the church today, and they talk about how leaders are not supposed to show weakness and leaders are not supposed to show fear, and yet we see Jesus with the inner three being as honest as he can be in one of the most tender and raw moments of his humanity, the Garden of Gethsemane. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. I'm so broken by my pain. It's almost as if I'm dying even though I'm still alive. He said, stay here and keep watch, is how verse 34 ends. Then verse 35, going a little further, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible, the hour might pass from him. Now this is interesting to me because Jesus has predicted his death multiple times before Mark 14. Like if you go by Matthew's gospel, Jesus has already even been at war with Peter and with the disciples. When you go back to Mark 9, Matthew 16, Jesus predicts his death, and then Peter rebukes him, and Jesus has to say, "Get behind me, Satan." Like Jesus was not just focused on and aware of his approaching death and crucifixion, but Jesus had actually gone to war over the idea with those that are his own. And now Jesus is praying that if possible, the very thing that he predicted might pass from him. I'm not sure we appreciate the power of pain. Verse 36, Abba, Father. A tender word. A word more like daddy. I mean, think about that for a minute. Your child has to have, let's just say, an operation to save their life. And they come to you beforehand and say, "Daddy, Daddy, please. Please don't. I don't want it to hurt. That type of request from a father's perspective is pretty overwhelming. Because I would do anything to keep pain away from my children. Abba, Daddy, Father, he said, everything is possible for you, God. So take this cup from me. Everything is possible for you, right? So don't let me go through the cross. Don't let me experience this pain. Take the cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will. Jesus returns back to his disciples and he finds them sleeping and he gets a little upset and he just says, come on, stay with me. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And then verse 39 says, once more he went away and prayed the same thing. What did he pray for? He prayed for the pain to be bypassed, for the cross to be eradicated. He prayed that he would not have to experience what he himself had predicted. As a matter of fact, it's at this point that Luke's gospel, Luke chapter 22, verse 44 says, and being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly for the pain to come away, begging God, please, Daddy, don't let me experience the pain of the cross. So earnestly he prayed, Luke's gospel says, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. I don't know if we appreciate the power of pain. And this is what I mean. Some of us are so intent on avoiding pain that we will even commit to a path that hurts us and other people. I know it sounds absurd, but we will long for anything to make the pain go away. And so we will turn to the drugs, or we will turn to materialism, or we will turn to our workaholism. We will do things that hurt us and hurt other people to avoid pain. What Gethsemane teaches me is this: pain is so powerful that it can even cause the Son of God to long to do anything other than the cross. Pain is so powerful that it can actually cause us to hurt ourselves and other people simply to avoid what we perceive as pain. Here's my challenge for you this week. Yes, press into your pain. Yes, pray the prayer, not my will, but yours be done. But more than that, I want you to do this, because this is a little harder. I want you to take an inventory of your life and ask the question, what choices have I made that were simply made to avoid pain? And once you isolate those choices, then I want you to ask this question, and how are they hurting me, and how are they hurting other people? Appreciate the power of pain. Don't beat yourself up. But understand what it is that you're facing whenever pain enters into our lives. I love you guys. Have a good week.